Unresolved Problems segment tonight. In Massachusetts, judges ruled in favor of same-sex marriage. In California, they ruled against the Pledge of Allegiance. These are just two recent examples of what some are calling judicial activism run amok. But is there any way to stop it? Joining us now from St. Louis, Phyllis Schlafly, author of the new book, The Supremacists, The Tyranny of Judges and How to Stop It. Mrs. Schlafly, welcome. Now, this has been a complaint among conservatives for years. There's been a lot of grousing about judicial activism. You've mentioned a couple of the more famous cases. Let's talk about how people can stop it, because that's a little thornier issue. Is there any way this can get stopped, or is it going to have to require such dramatic remedies as changing the Constitution?
Yes, we can stop it, and I think we want to fulfill what President Bush said when he said we're not going to stand for activist judges who are legislating from the bench and remaking our culture by court order. Just last week, the House of Representatives passed the Marriage Protection Act, and what this would do would be to say to the federal courts, you cannot consider and pass on the Defense of Marriage Act. You cannot force the other 49 states to accept Massachusetts' mischief.
Okay, what you're talking about here is the fact that a lot of people think the Commerce Clause is going to make it necessary if Massachusetts recognizes same-sex marriage. Eventually, everybody else is going to have to do the same thing. 40 states or so already have written into their state constitutions a definition of marriage as being a unique institution involving husband and wife, a man and a woman. Why isn't that good enough?
Well, because we might have some mischievous activist judge who would come along and say your state has to recognize what Massachusetts has done. And it's the full faith and credit clause. And under that clause in the Constitution, Congress has the right to pass regulations on it, which Congress did in the Defense of Marriage Act, passed in 1996, signed by Bill Clinton, passed by big bipartisan majorities. And now you have all the lawyers saying, oh, some judge is going to throw that out. And a couple of lesbians who got their marriage license in Massachusetts now are in Florida trying to get one of these activist judges to say Florida has to recognize it. Now, this is an offense against self-government, an offense against democracy. We are not going to let these 4 judges in Massachusetts, by a 4-3 majority, overturn the laws of 50 states and the federal government. We believe in the rule of law. We believe in self-government. We don't believe in bowing down to the supremacist judges. A supremacist is somebody who advocates the rule of a particular group, and the particular group is the judges.
Yeah, here's one of the things.
We're not going to let them do that.
Here's one of the things that troubles me anyway, which is that the United States Supreme Court seems to be fitting into this category. And once the Supreme Court has made a ruling, it's very difficult to reverse without, again, going to the drastic remedy of changing the Constitution itself.
Well, my new book, The Supremacist, will show you that it's simply a myth. It's false to say that the Constitution is whatever the Supreme Court says it is. It was the Earl Warren Court that tried to say the court decision is the supreme law of the land, but that's not true. The Constitution says what is the supreme law of the land. It's the Constitution and the laws that are made in pursuance thereof. And we should look upon judges like baseball umpires. We need the umpires to call the balls and strikes, but if they called a batter out after 2 strikes, you know the fans would not put up with it. And we are not going to put up with the judges throwing out the marriage law, banning the Pledge of Allegiance, and throwing out the 10 Commandments.
Do you think it's time to start recalling federal judges?
That's one way to go, but I think the easy way to go, the first step, is just the way the House passed the bill last week, the Marriage Protection Act, to say to the judges, you cannot hear a challenge to the Defense of Marriage Act. And I hope the Senate will pass it and the President will sign it, and that's the first step. We need to put these out-of-control judges back in their proper place in the separation of powers.
Phyllis Schlafly, thank you very much. Again, the book, The Supremacists, The Tyranny of Judges and How to Stop It.